In 1966, Nelly Sachs was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. She was a German Jew. It wasn't until May 1940 that she escaped from Berlin. As she and her mother, with their little battered suitcase and a flask of fennel tea, boarded the plane to Stockholm, German troops were racing through the Netherlands, through Belgium, through France. She became a great poet quite late in life, during her 50s, after her escape, in response to the trauma of exile. Her poetry as a whole begins as raw lament. As it develops, other layers are overlaid. These other layers include religious elements, Jewish, Hasidic, Kabbalist, Christian, and even Tibetan Buddhist. As for myself, I'm a Church of England priest. I've been translating Sachs's work for over 40 years now, on and off. I began with no thought of publication, but I'm very grateful to Michael Schmidt for his now blessing my efforts. Sachs wasn't a conventional religious poet. There's no conventional element of consolation in her work. Her faith is a rebound from despair, in the sense of registering the blasphemy of Nazism and of anything in any way resembling Nazism precisely as blasphemy. But there's no desensitizing element of consolation here. On the contrary, it's a work of sheer intensification of prophetic testimony. To illustrate what I mean, this is my translation of a little poem written in 1957, in which Sachs is reflecting on her prophetic vocation. First, I'll read it through verse by verse with a little bit of commentary, then I'll read the whole poem straight. In verse 1, she addresses herself. As you gave birth to these, your dust-winged constellation cries of trampled flight, a hand thrust flames into your mouth. Her poems are typically dust-winged, responses to death, dust you are and to dust you shall return. Many of them elegies for the dead of the Holocaust. On the other hand, they're constellation cries, cries of childbirth pain, ideally ego-less, participating in great immensities of divine creativity behind the scenes, pressing towards this worldly expression. Their cries of trampled flight, this is refugee literature. The hand holding the flames cast into her mouth is that of the God of Exodus. Then, beginning from verse 2, the poem becomes a prayer addressed to the Word of God at the beginning of St. John's Gospel, the Word of God which is God. O locked-in word of love, great blaze of sun behind the circling night. And verse 3, still addressing God. Here in the slipware of my love, I've caught your shining plunge. Yet I am breathless still. O gently counsel these despairing lungs. The slipware of my love. Her poems are like fine ceramics, jugs to hold the outpouring of divine grace. Verse 4. My light be scoured with all the ocean's wild assault, my sails unfurled to catch the vernal trade wind's energy. She prays to be maximally exposed, not least to the full moral reality of the Holocaust. In the end, that exposure more or less broke her. During the 1960s, she spent several years in psychiatric hospitals, at times very sick indeed. And finally, verse 5. Pressed up against the wall in prayer, my every thought becomes a drowning kiss, a golden song seed lodged within some crevice of the barrier reef. This is quite a free translation. Sachs's poem speaks of den Fels der Trennung, literally the rock of separation. I've taken the liberty of converting that into a barrier reef, picturing the fullness of divine reality as a vast ocean beyond, and Sachs's poems as so many bright, colourful fish. So the full poem. As you gave birth to these your dust-winged constellation cries of trampled flight, a hand thrust flames into your mouth. O locked-in word of love, great blaze of sun behind the circling night. Here, in the slipware of my love, I've caught your shining plunge. Yet I am breathless still. O gently counsel these despairing lungs. My light be scoured with all the ocean's wild assault, my sails unfurled to catch the vernal trade wind's energy. Pressed up against the wall in prayer, my every thought becomes a drowning kiss, a golden song seed lodged within some crevice of the barrier reef.